Joshua, hey, congratulations for this Western film, Gunfight at Dry River.
Thank you so much.
Hey, not a problem, not a problem. Terrific film, very dramatic, plenty of action. A lot of Western fans will certainly enjoy this film. That's for certain.
Good. Yeah, I certainly hope so.
So let's start off with the easy question. Why were you attracted to a project like Gunfight at Dry River?
So I remember getting an email from Dan. I'd worked with the director before, and he sent me an email in 2019 saying, "I'm doing a Western. I'd love you to take a look at the role." And you know, you get so many scripts now that are set in the modern day, and there's a lot of kind of things that they feel they have to be doing in terms of style. And to get to read a script that was this sort of classic Western story, it just felt like I was reading something really, I don't know, just returning to something slightly simpler, but really like compelling and really interesting. The characters were really well drawn. The story it doesn't need over complication in terms of explaining it. There's a very clear sort of drive to it, but it just looked like this brilliant opportunity to explore some really great characters with some other really good actors as well. A lot of the time you're working on films where you feel like you've got to rush through, or the text isn't that great, but these were really lovely scenes. So I think that on top of going, oh, it's gonna be a Western, we're gonna go and shoot in, you know, these amazing locations. I think those two things really drove me towards it.
Now, being British yourself, how familiar are Westerns? I can't imagine they play a lot of Westerns over yonder.
I think, you know, here for me growing up, Westerns were always the thing that are on a Sunday afternoon between like 2 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I would find myself, you know, watching them, and you know, they're not, you know, they're definitely a very American thing, Westerns, but they seem to have a lot of sort of classic storytelling, mythology within them. And I think that's why they appeal so broadly. Not to mention, you know, being a young boy growing up, cowboys, you know, it's great fun, big adventure movies.
So for a role like this, did you have to go through special preparation, you know, cowboy training per se?
Yes, the big one was learning to ride a horse. So it's something that I'd love to have done before, but it just never come across my desk, as it were. So I did 2 months of riding 2 or 3 times a week, and getting on some very large English horses and learning to ride and getting comfortable before going to Spain to shoot, where they gave me the horse who I'd be with for the shoot. Her name was Athara. She was gorgeous. It was a really lovely horse. And I miss her terribly, but we kind of got to know each other very well. We did these amazing kind of big wide shots in the desert, and at the beginning of the film you're sort of meant to be sort of limping along tired, but because she was in an open space she just wanted to run, so between takes we would just go for these long runs together, and it was, yeah, really lovely. So there was that, and then in terms of cowboy training, just getting used to the boots. Some very high-heeled boots, and doing action sequences running around with those wasn't always easy in the stones and the dust, but I think we got there.
It's funny because I wear boots all the time, so I don't even, you know, think about how difficult that is anymore. But you mentioned the location was actually in Spain. You know what? That actually surprises me. I didn't know. I was going to ask you.
Oh, good.
I thought it was maybe like New Mexico in the United States, or Mexico itself.
Yeah, we got away with it then. I think there's this, you know, there's the lovely tradition of the spaghetti westerns being shot in Italy and Spain, and the director Daniel Simpson, he was just there on holiday and found these 2 amazing locations and thought this could be a perfect stand-in for somewhere on the Mexican border, and why not make a western here? And yeah, there's a few tricks with VFX going on, but apart from that, yeah, I think a lot of the kind of the architecture and everything kind of suits it really well. It's beautiful.
So you guys found like this abandoned village or whatever, these ruins and all that. So that hasn't been. You guys didn't need to build that. That was there.
Yeah, exactly. So there's 2 main locations. One was an abandoned village where there was a church at the top of the hill, but the houses were all falling down. So some of them, you know, I think you can see in the film, there's like these roofs have just fallen in. So when we wanted shooting in them, they had to sort of add some extra support for a few of the rooms to make sure they didn't collapse while we were in there. And then that was kind of a very remote location. And then the second one was a place called Deborah, which is sort of a museum town that was bombed during the Spanish Civil War in the 30s, I believe. And some of that is obviously bombed out and fallen down, but a lot of it's still standing. So you still get the sort of main street, and you still get there's a really big church there, and just by being creative with the way we're shooting it, it kind of all worked. But to shoot somewhere that exists and has existed for that long, it kind of had this extra feel that we weren't just walking into sort of plasterboard sets. It was, you know, it had some real history to it, which was a really lovely thing to come on and perform on. Yeah. Was
it hot there? Because obviously it's dry season in the movie.
Yeah, so they were trying to time it. I mean, Dan was trying to time it so that we'd get some rain by the end of the shoot, but it was absolutely boiling. It was over 30 degrees for the first half of the shoot. And, one of the things that really drew me to the style of the Western, it's all very still and very focused, the performances, and you can really explore doing interesting things with your eyes and working across sort of with Anne Mitchell and Michael Moriarty and see what they're doing. That was all amazing. But then I realized part of the reason no one moved in a Western is because it's so hot. You just want to keep still the whole time. So it was kind of coming from two directions, those choices.
Oh, wow. Tell us about your did you have to go through any gun training? I guess because I'm talking to people who've done Westerns, and some of them say, oh no, I had to go through special gun training. Some of them said, no, I just wing it. Which direction did you go through?
Yeah, I was slightly in the second camp, I'm afraid. I would love to have gone and done a gun range shooting of those kind of weapons, but we didn't, sadly. I've done a bit of sort of gun stuff before for other roles, so it's not unfamiliar to me. But yeah, it would have been great fun to go and shoot with those big shotguns and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Well, I guess at least you didn't have to twirl anything, so that's good. Yeah. But what one of the things what's amazing is that you had a knife fight scene, which was terrific. But I'm scratching my head. Is like, who brings a knife to a gunfight? But anyways, can you talk about the choreography for that? Was that difficult?
Yeah. So I think that was an interesting one because we had a fight choreographer for another fight in the film, but then they were unavailable for that one. So Danny Shiner and I had to go and work it out for a few days, sort of outside of filming, and we wanted to make sure that it was vicious and hard, and you wanted to make sure that the stakes felt high the whole way through. So we would go and finish shooting a scene, and then we'd be in these amazing locations, sort of trying to work it all out with the knives. And then I think it was the last thing we shot, apart from one scene. I think it was the last thing we shot, and I think it might have been the scene that Danny rapped on. So we were I think it took about 3 hours ish, maybe a bit longer. And Danny he's very much an actor who leaves everything on set, so we really kind of went for it. Keeping as safe as you can in those situations, but sort of really going for it as much as we could. So I'm glad it works.
Being part of this indie Western project, there's a lot of stunts. Did you do all your stunts, or you had to bring in a little bit of like a stunt double for yourself, or? You're
right. With these indie projects, it's always interesting to find out what they have available. So no, there wasn't any stunt doubles for any of it. So, but that it's a wonderful challenge to be like, right, we need you to gallop in on the horse, jump off, and start firing a gun. And you're okay, and and we need you to hit this mark. All those kind of things. So. Yeah, I don't really know what to say. I don't want to be one of those people who's like, yeah, I do all my own stunts, but it wasn't really an option this time. So it was, yes, I did. We all did our own stunts and fight scenes for this. But I think that really helps with the rest of the character. You've got these, in a lot of the other scenes, there's lovely dramatic scenes, great dialogue scenes as well. But if you don't, I think if you don't experience doing both, you can't grasp the character from both ends.
Do you personally enjoy doing physical, activities on these sets? Do you attract these type of roles?
Yeah, so much. It's an odd one. I went to drama school, and you kind of there's this strange thing that happens where you do voice classes and you do sort of physicalization classes, and I just found myself more drawn towards that. And so a lot of my work, I'm only 5'10", and I wouldn't say I'm sort of a huge bodybuilder, but I seem to get off with a lot of these roles where it's throwing yourselves into harm's way, and I really enjoy it. It's good fun.
Well, one more thing for you, Joshua, because obviously this is a Western. People assume it's in the United States Mexican border and so on. How easy was it for you to drop the accent and speak a little Spanish?
So obviously I was doing a South American accent for the film, and then was doing the Spanish. So what actually ended up happening was I'd kind of learnt the Spanish, but there was someone who came to set who was playing a small role. But he kind of came up to me while I was rehearsing, just sort of to myself, and said, "That word isn't quite right." And so I got him to say all of my lines into a recorder, and would just go to bed sort of repeating them. So when it came to the scene, I kind of would have them right. And there was a couple of times he was just in the background on one of those scenes where he was able to come and say, "Oh, just that one a little bit." So you're always striving to get it as correct as possible. So it was good fun, and then I've got a very British accent, so it helps me to stay in the accent the whole time. So when we flew into Barcelona, I moved into my South American accent and stayed with that the whole time during the shoot. And then when we wrapped, I kind of dropped it and kind of came back to my own voice. But some of the crew were like, "We don't really know who you are now." It's a bit confusing. So I think I might have switched back for the dinner just so that they kind of didn't feel confused. But all of that stuff, it all builds in. I think once you get the accent is part of the character as well. The way that every accent has a personality that you can kind of speak through. So yeah, it all helps.
Most excellent. Hey, this is a great conversation, Joshua. Hey, thank you very much for talking to us, and thank you for being part of being the lead of a Gunfight at Dry River. Hopefully, we get to do this again.
Thank you so much for speaking to me. Take care.
Hey, you too. Bye now.